Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Oxygen podcast. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the impact and the importance of oxygen on our brain function. Let's get to it. So, the first thing I want to share with you is that the brain consumes about 20% of the body's oxygen supply, despite being only about 2% of total body weight. Okay? So, just let's put this into perspective. The oxygen that we inhale into our lungs, into our bloodstream, goes 20% of it goes into our brains. Now, what does it do? What areas of the brain will it have a direct impact on? Let's start with the neural energy supply. So essentially, oxygen is used for cellular respiration, particularly in the mitochondria of the neurons. It enables the production of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, the energy currency of the cell. Point number two, oxygen has a direct impact on neurotransmitter production. Now, what does that mean? It means that oxygen is involved in the synthesis and regulation of neurotransmitters such as dopamine, serotonin, and glutamate, which influences cognition, mood, and overall neural communication. And the third area is neuroplasticity. Now, adequate oxygen levels support neurogenesis, the creation of new neurons, and synaptogenesis, the formation of new connections. Now, both of these are critical for learning and memory function in the brain. So you might ask, well, what happens in the absence of oxygen? Well, we've got two types. We've got short-term, low-level oxygen deprivation, and we've got extended oxygen deprivation, and I'm going to get into these 2 points right away. So the effects of oxygen deprivation, or commonly known as hypoxia on the brain, like we said, comes in two forms. The mild hypoxia, the short-term low oxygen, and then the severe hypoxia, extended oxygen deprivation. The mild hypoxia, usually we experience it in the form of brain fog or memory issues. Even slight oxygen deprivation can impact cognitive function, making it harder to concentrate and recall information. So have you had that feeling where you're sitting around behind your laptop or computer? It's in the middle of the day or earlier on in the day, and you just don't feel right. You feel head heavy. Well, that's because there's a lack of high purity oxygen around you. And what you typically would need to do is either move out of that environment, go out and get some fresh air, open the window, or in our case, make sure you've got plenty of oxygen flowing in your room by covering your walls with oxygen coating. The second aspect, which is very important to pay attention to, is mood changes. So anxiety, irritability, depression, these are all caused due to low level or mild hypoxia, low level oxygen deprivation. Make sure you've got, again, plenty of oxygen flowing into your lungs, into your bloodstream, and into your brain, because that will keep your mood stable, it will keep you sharp, and it will keep you focused. The last point I want to make is relates to fatigue, tiredness, dizziness. Those also are contributing factors of mild hypoxia, low level oxygen that's in that space that you're in. Again, to change that, all you have to do is change your environment, open the window, go out for a walk, or have the oxygen coating flowing on your walls, because you want to make sure that the air quality, the air purity of the space that you're sitting in or you're present at is at an optimal level. And those are some of the measures that you can take to help increase your oxygen flow in the space that you're in. So when we're talking about severe hypoxia or extended oxygen deprivation, we're talking again about three things that are severe. The first one is neural death. Without enough oxygen, neurons begin to die within minutes. So this leads to brain damage. The second severe consequence of having low level oxygen for extended period of time is cognitive decline and neurodegenerative risks. So, chronic low energy levels, as seen in conditions like sleep apnea, are linked to an increased risk of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. Now, this is something very serious, and if you want to avoid those moments where oxygen is not flowing in your body, especially at night when you're sleeping. In the cases of apnea, uh, you've got to make sure that your airways are open and that the oxygen that's flowing into your body is at a high purity level, which is why we recommend having the back wall in your bedroom where your head rests, have that wall painted as a feature wall with oxygen coating. And the last one is loss of consciousness and brain injury. So if we go without oxygen in an extended period of time, in the extreme cases, you're going to experience comas, strokes, or permanent neurological impairment. So that again is in the severe cases where oxygen is just not present. Um, these are the two types of oxygen deprivation that exists, and it has a direct impact on our brain function. So, what can we do to increase oxygen flow in our respiratory system and into our bloodstream? Well, first thing, exercise. Get out there, go for a walk, play a sport, especially a running sport. Play some tennis, football. Those are great sports that gets the heart pumping and increases your heart rate, and it increases the blood flow in the body. Practice deep breathing. We don't do this enough. The body usually takes in 22,000 on average breaths a day. In terms of volume and capacity, that's more than the food we eat and the water we drink. So we have to pay attention. We're taking in a lot of air into our lungs and into our bloodstream, and we've got to make sure that that inflow is taking in the right kind of oxygen molecules that that help us breathe better. The third thing you can do is buy an oxygen coating, apply it on the wall. One wall per room will do. It creates that circulation. When I move my hand in front of this camera that you can see, I'm actually moving air molecules. And at some point, when I move this air in the room, it's going to hit the wall and it's going to react with the oxygen coating. And the byproduct of that is going to be higher quality, purer air. Ensure good sleep. Make sure you get between 7 to 8 hours of sleep every day. Take power naps during the middle of the day. That's also really, really important, especially as we start to age. Those power naps really gets our body energized and rebooted during the day. And the last point is stay hydrated. You want to make sure that the blood flow in our body uh, is nice and liquid and there's no clots because that is lethal and dangerous. So we definitely want to avoid that. So the last part I want to talk about is yes, we've understood the impact of oxygen on our brain function, on our neurons, our neural links. But what about other vital organs? So what happens, for example, in our lungs? Well, oxygen exchange. The lungs are responsible for absorbing oxygen in the bloodstream and expelling carbon dioxide. So every breath that we take, we body pulls in the oxygen molecules, releases the carbon dioxide into back into the air. Cellular respiration. Oxygen is needed for every cell to generate ATPs. Now, that's ATP in a nutshell is energy. It keeps the tissues alive and functioning. And the third area is pulmonary health. Now, low levels of oxygen hypoxia can lead to conditions like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, and pulmonary hypertension. And those are things that we definitely don't want, especially uh, if we want to keep our lungs healthy, fit, and strong. So, what happens in our heart and cardiovascular system? Well, when it comes to blood oxygenation, oxygen binds the hemoglobin in red blood cells, allowing it to transport through the body. Very, very important. Point number two, heart function. The heart needs constant oxygen supply to maintain its beat. Okay, so whenever there's irregularity in your heartbeat, that's because the heart's not getting enough oxygen, or one of the elements is that it's not getting enough oxygen uh, into the system. And the last part in terms of our cardiovascular and heart is that blood vessel health. So we want to make sure that proper oxygen levels prevent vascular constriction and that we support the heart's healthy circulation. Okay, so keep those things in mind. What about brain and the nervous system? Well, when it comes to the brain, the neural activity, oxygen fuels neurotransmitter production and synaptic function, right? So, brain function happens at the neural links, neural networks, and we want to make sure that those neural links are active constantly. And to do that, you need to have oxygen flow. Point two, cognitive and mental clarity. Poor oxygenation can cause brain fog, dizziness, and memory issues. And the last part, when it comes to brain and our nervous system, is the risk of strokes. So, in order to reduce the risk, you got to make sure that you maintain a high level of oxygen in your body, particularly in your brain cells. What about muscles? Muscles and physical performance. The aerobic energy production. Oxygen enables muscles to generate ATP effectively, and this prevents fatigue. So if you don't want to get tired, if you want your muscles to work, if you're in the gym and you're working out and you want to increase your ability to do some more reps, well, the first rule is to make sure you're in a high oxygenated area that allows your body to pump better, stronger with more reps. That's something that is worth considering, especially for gyms. The second aspect when it comes to muscles and physical performance is muscle recovery and endurance. So higher oxygen intake improves your recovery time, reduces cramps, and prevents lactic acid buildup. Now, if you watch athletes in sports like tennis, where every match can go on for 2, 3 hours, especially at the pro level. So one of the drills that these athletes do is they go in oxygen tanks or they have oxygen masks and they breathe in high concentration oxygen into their lungs and into their body because they want to make sure that their cells, their muscles can last longer without their body getting tired and their muscles cramping up. So just bear that in mind. One of the things that you want to do if you're sitting indoors, especially for working professionals who work from home or they're in offices where the spaces are small, you want to make sure that one of the walls is oxygenated or you've got a humidifier or you've got a ventilator somewhere close to you because, again, you want to make sure the air purity level is at a higher concentration. And the last part that's related to muscle and physical performance is tissue repair. The higher concentration of oxygen in your body, better circulation, and the faster those your tissues will repair and fix themselves. This is good for getting rid of old cells or zombie cells, and at the same time, if you've experienced an injury, it'll help expedite that process. So, what happens to our skin and the surface of the body? Well, the first positive impact that high oxygen level has is on wound healing. So, oxygen is critical for cell regeneration and collagen production, which speeds up healing. So, if you want to get more of that collagen into cuts or injuries, you need to make sure your body is fully oxygenated. Skin health. Poor oxygenation can lead to permanent aging, wrinkles, dull skin tone. So again, if you feel that your skin isn't rejuvenated as much as you'd like, or it just doesn't feel nice and tight, look into having better oxygen levels in your home or in your bedroom or wherever you spend a lot of time in. And the last part is the microcirculation. So oxygen helps maintain healthy blood flow in the skin and reduces inflammation and acne. Okay. So if you've got acne in the body, one of the things that you can do is improve the oxygen levels in your surrounding room that you are, in your bedroom, in your study, in your living room. Again, surround yourself with better quality air because it does have a direct impact on our skin. So, what happens to our digestive system and metabolism. Well, believe it or not, oxygen has a direct impact on our nutrition absorption. The gut relies on oxygen-rich blood to properly absorb nutrients into the body. So, again, we don't think about these things and we don't really focus on the impact of oxygen on all of these major vital organs in our bodies, but it has a direct impact, and we need to start focusing on what's happening in our body and then drawing uh, reference to the oxygen level that we're breathing. Is that a contributing factor? If it is, we need to immediately take action. Detoxification. The liver depends on oxygen for breaking down toxins and metabolizing drugs. So if we are taking medication, having a higher level of oxygen purity in any room helps you to metabolize the drugs that you're taking, and also it breaks down the toxins in the body. The last part for our digestive system, microbiome balance. Oxygen affects the balance of gut bacteria, influences digestion and immunity. So if you want overall gut health, make sure that oxygen is flowing, high purity level oxygen is flowing in the space that you're in, whether it's your home, a retirement home, at the office, in your school, your dorm on campus, and anywhere where you're confined to, you want to make sure that the oxygen level is at an optimum level. So, what about our immune system and infection response? Well, with white blood cell function, oxygen powers immune cells that fight infections and inflammation. Okay. So, again, having high purity level oxygen has an impact on our white blood cells, right? We talked about the oxygen flow in red blood cells for the heart, digestive system. This one has a direct impact on your white blood cells because it then boosts up the immune system and the immune cells and the ability for the blood cells to fight off any infection, any intrusion, and just makes them better soldiers. So the next point is the antimicrobial effects. High oxygen environments can kill harmful bacteria and aid in wound healing. Okay. So again, you're empowering your white blood cells to quickly go to the area where you're either cut, bruised, or there's a surface injury, and it will quickly heal or begin to heal your skin. If it's an internal uh, problem, the white blood cells will again be empowered to take on the intruder and break it apart and neutralize it. So it does have a direct impact. And then the last part is oxygen therapy for healing. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy, HOT, which we talked about, something that the athletes do, is used for infections, chronic wounds, tissue damage, improve oxygen lung capacity, and so on. So, oxygen therapy is very, very important because, again, you want to make sure you've got the right amount of oxygen flowing in your body. And the next part is the impact of oxygen on our kidney and detoxification. So, blood filtration. The kidney requires oxygen to filter waste and regulate electrolytes. Acid base balance. Oxygen helps maintain your pH balance in the blood. Very, very important. Hypoxia and kidney damage. If that happens, then chronic low oxygen can lead to kidney disease and failure. And that's something you definitely don't want to happen. Now, we've associated with kidney failure with other activities that happen, but nobody talks about kidney failure when it comes to oxygen or low levels of oxygen. You've got to make sure that your oxygen intake is sufficient enough, it's high enough where these vital organs that we've discussed are performing at an optimal level. So, what about our reproductive system and fertility, sperm and egg health? Well, oxygen is vitally important for reproductive cell viability and embryo development. Okay. So, when we want to talk about having a higher sperm count or having an active sperm count, same thing with eggs in women. Oxygen plays a direct role here because you want to make sure that the reproductive cells are again functioning at a higher level. Placental function. During pregnancy, oxygen is essential for fetal brain and organ development. Okay, so pregnant women, when they're having their newborn, they're raising the child inside their womb. High quality air leads to fetal brain development and as well as their organ function and their organ development. Hormonal regulation. Oxygen influences endocrine functions, impacting fertility and menstrual cycles. Keep that in mind. People living in areas where the air quality is bad run the risk of having hormonal irregularity. Okay. So you want to make sure you're surrounded in an environment again with higher oxygen purity level. And the last part of the conversation that I want to have is bone health and regeneration. So, osteoblast activity, bone forming cells, requires oxygen for growth and repair. Fractured healing, oxygen speeds up healing process of broken bones and bone marrow and blood production. Oxygen supports red blood cell production in the bone marrow. So as you can see, all of our organs in the body, from our brain cells, neural links, our vital organs in the body, depend on oxygen to perform and function at a high level. So if you want to stay fit, if you want to stay at a high level and high intensity, high cognitive function, your bones, your heart, your kidneys are all working at a high level, make sure you are aware of the oxygen purity level in the spaces that you're in. And if ever you feel that the oxygen levels are starting to drop, provide yourself the technology and innovation that can help increase your oxygen level. Hope this information was informative. Please subscribe to our channel. Get involved in this conversation because oxygen and this channel is all about health and wellness, but we also provide a solution that comes in the form of a paint coating with infused ionic powers that can have a direct impact on our health and wellness. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you guys next time.